Hi, in your take-home midterm exam, you are going to have to examine confidence interval visually. So I wanted to do my first YouTube instructional video, which is really funny. So bear with me. So I'm going to present to you three scenarios where the SPSS graph can show you, and then you have to determine or make a decision whether these intervals are overlapping or not with each other. So I'm going to explain that. So the first scenario is where you have, one second. Okay, so here you have a variable that this is already generated in the SPSS chart. You have the mean of variable y, then you have some grouping variable, so variable x, so in this case variable x, and you have either one group or another group. So for example, a condition can be people in the intervention, people in the control group. And then under this scenario, it might generate the confidence interval of the mean. So for example, this is one scenario where you have the mean of group 1 and the 95% confidence interval ranging from here to here. And then for group 2, the confidence interval might be smaller than the group 1, but these two intervals in a way are within each other. Yeah, what does that mean? So if I'm gonna use a crayon, you don't have to use a crayon. You extend the line. You think that one interval is within the other interval. Now, what does that mean in terms of, just for your own sake, in terms of interpreting this? So if I were to graph this again, scenario A again in a different way, so scenario here A, I'm gonna move my camera, and I have variable y, so the mean of variable y, and instead of dividing it into groupings, I'm just gonna represent group 1 with the blue line, and we're gonna say that the mean is around here, and we're 95% confidence that the mean that true value is within these parameters. Okay, so blue equals group 1. Then I'm going to illustrate group 2 using yellow. So group 2, it might be that the mean is actually quite close and the confidence interval is within this. So yellow equals group 2. So that means that when you have two intervals that are within each other, so they are, in this case, I put them all in one level, yellow one, these are not different from each other. It's unlikely that these are different from each other. So these two groups have pretty much the same mean. Okay. Now, a different scenario, scenario B. In scenario B, you might have group 1's confidence interval might be low, and group 2 confidence interval might be higher than the other. So they don't overlap necessarily. So if you I'm gonna take my magic crayon. I'm gonna use a different crayon. Let me use a purple crayon. And look, these two intervals, not only they do not overlap, but one is higher than the other. What does that mean? Again, if we were to interpret this, what we're doing is interpret it in this way. Yeah? So let's do that. Let's go back. We have our graph, the mean of the y variable, and we have, and then we put the values. So we put the values of group 1 and the values of group 2, and we see that the confidence interval, they do not overlap, but one is actually higher value. So remember, this is 0 here. So this is a higher value. So one has a mean that is higher than the other group. So that, and because the confidence intervals do not overlap, that mean is probably, that difference is probably not due to chance. So we can reject chance as an explanation for why these two means are different. Yeah. So this scenario, this what I'm plotting here in this beautiful art, is the same as this scenario. It's just a visual representation. I'm just shifting it. Yeah. And then putting these two lines at the same level. So that's one. So scenario B. Scenario C. Scenario C is not that different. Again, in this case, group 1 has a higher confidence interval than group 2. Hold on, am I in camera? Yeah, than group 2. Yeah. And again, I go with my purple crayon visually. You can do with your eyes, and you see these two do not overlap. And in fact, one group, if we do this in this way, yeah, we'll see that one value it's higher than the other. So we can again do that scenario in a different way. Hold on, my crayon is getting in the way. So we got a scenario C, and we're trying to plot everything on the same level. We have the mean for the y value, and we're looking at those intervals, and we have in a scenario, in this case it's the yellow group, it says a lower value, the mean and confidence interval, than the blue group. Okay. But again, these two things, remember, this is a different way representation. Point is that under these scenarios, you have under one scenario, the group 2 has a lower interval than group 1. Under scenario B, group 1 has a lower interval than or lower mean and interval than group 2. And then under scenario A, the two intervals are parallel to each other. Whether one, they don't have to be perfectly aligned. They could be, one can be smaller than the other. But that means that they still within, we're not confident that these two groups are different for the variable that we're examining. Well, I hope this was useful. Again, first YouTube video, instructional YouTube video. Be well. Bye-bye.